Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the book entitled Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. But before we start, just comment the word down below, Rich Dad, because that is the topic for today's video. Alright, let's get started. One big idea to understand as you read this book is the poor dad is Robert's real dad and the rich dad is his friend Mike's dad. They are complete opposites. So the poor dad, he had a formal education, he's a government employee, and he holds conservative and traditional views on money. And he likes to say things like, go to school, work hard, and get a good job. Now, the rich dad, he's totally different. He did not have a full formal education. He is a business owner. In fact, he owns several businesses. He has more advanced ways of thinking about money, and he says things like, do not work for money, but have money work for you. From this, we can learn how Robert Kiyosaki grew to learn about money from both of these men. Now, let's review the top 5 ideas I got from this book. Let's start with number 1. Number 1 here is assets versus liabilities. This is one of the most important ideas in this book. If you want to be rich, this is all you need to know, according to Robert Kiyosaki. Assets put money in your pocket, and liabilities take money out of your pocket. He says this is rule number 1 to becoming rich. And for your assets column, these are things that are included as assets. Owning a business, investing in real estate, and getting dividends from stocks and bonds. Another big idea to focus on in this section is don't work for money, but have it work for you. He goes on to say that the poor and middle class, they buy luxuries first, and this is what keeps them poor. But the rich buy assets first, and these assets generate income, and then they can buy their luxuries. They buy their luxuries last. So that's a big difference between being rich and being poor and thinking about your assets and liabilities. So this is something really important to keep in mind in terms of becoming rich. Now we have number 2. And number 2 here is mind your own business. And no, this is not a snarky comment or anything, but what he means by this is don't just work for someone else, but this is where you make money for yourself and you make sure you're taken care of financially. This is not your job or the profession that you work. So here are the differences. The difference between your profession and your business is your profession is what you study to become. So for example, some people study to become a chef or a mechanic or a banker, and that is the position that they get. But in doing this, these people are minding someone else's business and they're making someone else rich, the boss's business. Minding your own business means that you're focusing on your own asset column, not your income column. So again, you want to focus on things like stocks, bonds, investing, owning a business, and even real estate investing. You want to do things like this so that you have money coming in for yourself, so at the end of the day, you'll become financially free. And this is a big idea to consider, because when I first heard this book, I read this book earlier in the year, at the top of the year, then I reread it recently for this video. I was thinking, this is interesting, usually we go to work and then we just work all day, we're just making somebody else rich. But instead of that, or while we do that, because you probably will need to get a job at first, but as we do that, focus on your own business too. Make sure you have some investments going, make sure you have your own business going, so that at the end of the day, you will become financially free. I just want to say, if you're getting any value out of this video, just please click the like button down below. Also, click subscribe and turn on the notification bell. That way you'll be notified the moment I post my next video. And just comment the phrase down below, Rich Dad, because that is the topic for today's video. Doing things like this really helps support my channel, and it helps my content get pushed to a larger audience. So for doing this, I say thank you. And now we have number 3. Number 3 here is give first. And the main idea is to give first and you shall receive what you want. Now, I love this idea because I'm already a generous person and I pretty much already do this. Another reason why I like this idea is because it's in the Bible, and of course if it's in the Bible then it has to be true. Proverbs 11:25 says, "A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." So it goes to show, if you go to help somebody else out, naturally you will be helped out as well. And in the book, Robert Kiyosaki talks about how his rich dad was able to give money away to others and even tithe to his church. He was able to donate money to his church. And when he felt like he was in need, he would first give money first so he would be able to receive money. And then in later years, when Robert became an adult, he said he would do the same thing. He said that when he felt short or was lacking in an area, the first thing he would do is give in that same area. So for example, if he wanted money, or if he wanted a smile, or if he wanted love or friendship, first he would give that thing, and then in return he would receive it back. In the book, he called this the principle of reciprocity. And he also leaves us with a quote that said, "God does not need to receive, but humans need to give." So that's something important to keep in mind as we're on our journey to becoming financially free. And now we have number 4. Number 4 here is be focused. Focus in the book stands for follow one course until successful. To be rich, you need to be focused. And then Robert Kiyosaki goes on to say, don't put few eggs into many baskets, as many Americans do, but instead put a lot of your eggs into a few baskets and then focus. What he's talking about in this idea is investing initially, but this also branches out to other areas of your life, such as starting one business versus starting several businesses at the same time, or working one career or working several careers at the same time. He's talking about just focus on one thing until you're successful in that area, and that's how you become rich. He says this because if you move around and you're focusing on too many different things, then you end up getting distracted and you never really reach any main success. So be focused, not balanced. Stay in one spot and be unbalanced first. So what he's talking about here is you're unbalanced because you're so focused on one thing. Putting your eggs in many baskets is balanced because you're trying to do so much, but no, be unbalanced, focused on one thing, and you're better off that way. He goes off to list many different people who have done this, but specifically he mentions Thomas Edison. He also mentions Bill Gates, how they focused so deep on their one goal until that one goal was successful, and then that made them rich. Now, I really value this idea because it really helped me make up my mind. I know I am a multi-passionate person, and I like to do a lot of different things. I like photography, I like YouTube, I like real estate, so I'm kind of doing a lot of things, but I'm recently realizing that I really need to focus in on one thing so I can be successful, and then I can kind of move on to other things in order to grow. So if you're one of those people too, I just want to encourage you, let's pick one thing and then focus in on that so that we'll be able to make the money that we deserve. And now we have here number 5. And number 5 here is once and don't once. So you got to have a purpose, and why you want to become rich is a combo of once and don't once. So for example, Robert Kiyosaki says he created a list, and this list fuels him during the difficult times, and it just continues to fuel him. It's like a purpose list basically. So let me give you his examples here. He says, I don't want to work for my whole life. I don't want job security, because instead he'd rather have a business. He says, I don't want to be an employee because I won't have enough time for myself. I don't want to end up like my parents, who were not financially literate and they did not do what they were supposed to do with their money. And his I wants list is as follows. I want to be free to travel, and I want to be young when I travel. And I want to be free to just enjoy my time. I can pick and choose what I want to do with my time. He also says, I want control over my life. And he also says, I want money to work for me and not the other way around. So for him, these are deep emotional reasons that push him through his struggles and that keep him motivated, like a purpose. And the first time I heard this is actually when I read the book Un-F Yourself by Gary John Bishop. And it does help fuel me, because there are things in life where it's like, you know what, I see this, I don't want this. I see people at my job, for example, and I work at the airport, and it is a minimum wage job. And I see people at my job who are like 3 times older than me, they're like in their 70s, and they're standing on their feet. I'm like, how are they doing this? My feet hurt, okay, and I'm standing up. How are they 3 times my age doing this? So I'm fueled by things like that. I say things to myself, for example, I do not want to be 70 years old and still working a job like this. I don't. And things like that help fuel me to become financially free. Overall, this book is about the basics of what you need to become financially literate and ultimately rich. This book does a good job of covering the basic points. But one critique I do have of this book is it does offer more advanced examples and details of how to handle money. And this can become confusing for someone who is just starting out. For example, in the book, Robert Kiyosaki starts to go over how he was able to buy a property with just a little bit of money and then sell it in a short amount of time, and that's good. But when he gets into deep details like that, it starts to become confusing for someone who's just learning about money. But ultimately, I do recommend this book. And if you would like to get this book, you could just click the link down below. I left a link for Audible, so you can sign up for Audible to listen to this book. I also left a link down below if you'd like to buy it on Amazon in paperback form. You know, some people like to read it in paper, so you have your options. You can go down below and click whichever option you'd like. Well, that brings us to the end of this video here, but I just want to say, if you got any value out of this video, just click the like button down below. Also, click subscribe and turn on the notification bell. That way you'll be notified the moment I post my next video. And we're going to do a question of the day. Have you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki? And if you have, what are your opinions on the book? Just let me know down in the comment section. I'll be sure to get right back to your comments. I read all of them, and I'll leave a little heart next to it just to make sure that you know I paid attention to your comment. Okay, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.